Good afternoon, guys. This week's discussion post asked us to look at historical newspapers and the database that we can access through the Liberty Library. So when looking at historical newspapers, I chose the topic of VJ Day, which is Victory over Japan Day. And initially I went into it thinking we were going to get a lot of newspapers celebrating the end of the war, American being victorious, stuff like that. But I did find that, but not to the degree I thought I was going to. A lot of it had to do with other topics that the end of the war brought about. Yes, we did find, many from all different cities, towns, large and small, discussing the victory. But we also have some, discussing, the changes that are going to be brought about by the end of the war. One being the challenge of bringing home our soldiers. So we have thousands, really millions of soldiers overseas, and now we got to get them all home while maintaining peace. Immediately following a war, that's always going to be difficult, and there's decisions to be made on which soldiers come home and when they come home, and how to maintain our presence in Europe and in Japan and in Asia. While getting most of our soldiers home where they belong. Another topic that I saw several newspaper posts about was jobs. So obviously wartime production is going to ramp up jobs, and millions of our young men are going to be soldiers, so that's going to give them jobs and change the job market. But now that they're coming home, most of them are coming home, and wartime production is going to slow down. There's fear that a jobless wave would hit. We know that it didn't really happen. American production, industrial production kind of boomed after World War II. But there's fear of that, especially coming out of the Great Depression. And I saw several different newspaper articles discussing Harry Truman's speeches and what he thought about the end of the war. There was one about General Douglas MacArthur and him signing the surrender terms and him watching the Emperor of Japan's Agents Act, and him and Admiral Nitz being on the boat with him, discussing the surrender ceremony. And then one is going to detail the radio broadcast that Truman is going to have telling the world that World War II is over. So a lot more diverse of newspapers during that time period. I searched really the whole month of, well, it's more than a month, but August 15th to the end of September 1945 to cover a lot of, you get some newspapers right before the end of the war, but when it's pretty much not in doubt. And then you get, it took about 15 days for the peace process to come about until we finally got the surrender of Japan. And then that gave us about 20-ish days after the surrender for the newspapers to come out. 1945, news is going to travel a little slower today, but still 20 days is plenty. So we got a much more diverse perspectives from the newspapers than I thought we were going to initially, which is kind of cool. Thank you for listening. Hope y'all have a great week.